Hi everyone, welcome to Yoga with Heini. I'm Heini, and this week I'm going to lead you through a post-workout yoga practice for releasing tension around the hips. So if you've just done a workout, this is a nice way to stretch out the muscles around your hips. Let's get started. For this week's practice, I would suggest to have one prop, either some kind of a yoga block, or you could also have a bolster or some kind of cushion. So one or the other, just something we could use under the pelvis as we get towards the end of the practice, supported bridge. But before we get there, we're going to do lots of other movements for the hips, the pelvic area, and we're going to start from lying down on the back. So when you are ready, find your way lying down on the back. And first, just let your both legs come resting on the floor, on the mat. And you could rock the pelvis a bit from side to side, kind of shimmy the pelvis from side to side. And just let your hips soften, let your thighs soften, let your both buttocks soften. And take a couple of slightly deeper belly breaths in and out. Let the body start softening a bit after your workout, after your exercise. Or maybe you do this as a standalone practice. That's very fine as well. Just let your body arrive on the mat. And then with your next few breaths, bend your knees and step your feet just a bit wider apart than your hips, than your pelvis. And you could let arms rest somewhere on the sides. We're going to swing the legs from side to side, so windshield wiper movements. Bringing gentle movement to the hips. You can let your whole pelvis rock from side to side. Maybe the lower back starts to twist a bit as well. And just kind of checking in how you're feeling around the hips right now. And the next time when your knees come to the right side of the mat, leave your legs, your knees, kind of leaning to the right. You don't need to get both knees to the floor. And send a few breaths down towards the hips. Now this could be a stretch, kind of around the left thigh, coming towards the left side hip flexors. If you want, you could lengthen your left arm overhead, and that might extend that stretch all the way to your left side, maybe all the way to the left shoulder. Take another breath in and out. And then slowly bring the legs back up and release or lean the legs to the left side of the mat. Same idea here. So we're not putting legs on top of each other, but we keep the legs wider apart and just let the knees lean towards the left side. So here, my left leg is resting on the floor, but the right knee is quite far off the mat, and it's very fine. I can feel this as a stretch in the right thigh and all the way in the right hip, kind of the hip flexor line and the outside of the hip. You might feel this elsewhere in the legs, or maybe again coming to the right side, you can bring the right arm higher up. It might extend that stretch higher up. Just make sure there's no pain in the knees, there's no pain in the hips. Take another breath in and out. And then slowly again bring the legs back up to the center, release the arms down. And now extend your left leg all the way down onto the floor and hug the right knee in towards the chest. And then start to circle that right hip. It could be that you just have your right hand resting on the right knee, or it could be both hands. I find it easier if it's just the right hand. It gives more space on the right hand side to do those circles. And then you can change the direction. It doesn't need to be a very big circle. It's just bringing movement, kind of smooth movement to the hip. So more focus on creating an even circle than trying to make it as big as possible. Let's do one more full circle, breathing all the time. And then hug the right knee towards your right armpit. You could maybe bring left hand on top of the left hip, kind of weigh the left hip down and let the right hip open. Either staying here, hugging the knee towards the armpit, or you could do a half happy baby if you want. Reach right hand to the right foot. Maybe pause there, or even turn the right foot, the sole of the foot, up towards the ceiling. And that probably gives quite a big stretch around the right thigh, kind of the hamstring, inner thigh, groin area. Again, make sure it's not painful. You can always come back to hugging the knee in. Just take another breath in and out, stretching the legs out. And then release your half happy baby. Close the right hip, release the right foot down. And we're going to change legs the other way around. So now hug the left knee in and extend, just release the right leg down onto the floor. And we start to circle the left hip. So I have just my left hand on the left knee, kind of guiding the leg. I have my right hand on top of the right hip, on front of the right side of the pelvis here, to just ground the right side down. And this way I'm kind of directing the movement more into the right hip. So I try not to move the whole pelvis, but I'm trying to get more movement in the right hip. And we could change the direction, go a few times the other way around. And you might notice the second side feels different. That is very fine. Just make a note of how it feels different. Let's do one more circle, still breathing in, breathing out. And then from that last circle, we're going to now hug the left knee towards the left armpit. Right hand stays there on top of the front of the right hip. And this could be a very nice place to stay for a few breaths. Or if you want, you can reach left hand to the left foot. You could stay there. Or the last option was to turn the sole of the foot, so lift the left foot up towards the ceiling, half happy baby, trying to keep the right side of the pelvis grounded down. So we're not going to kind of just roll onto the left side. We try to keep both sides of the pelvis down. And breathe all the way down towards the belly. Let's take a couple more breaths in and out. Trying to release with those exhalations. And then next exhalation, bring your left foot down, close the hip. Bring both feet down. And you could a couple of times rock the whole pelvis from side to side. And then from your back, roll onto one side, either the left or the right side, and bring yourself all the way up into a seat. And we're going to now come into a deer pose. And in the seated deer, We have first side left shin in front of us and right leg is kind of bent next to us, or you could even bring it slightly behind you. And we start by opening the front of the right thigh. Now step your left hand somewhere behind you so that you can lean onto that left hand and lift it, dear. Inhale, lift your pelvis off the floor so that you open the front of the right thigh, lifting the pelvis up. You can reach the right arm up. Next exhalation, release the pelvis back down, bring your right arm back down. Second round, same thing. Inhale, lift the pelvis up. And you can reach the right arm away from your right knee. So opening the front of the right leg, the left shin pressing down. And exhale again. Release the pelvis, release the arm back down. Once more. Inhale, lift the pelvis up. Opening through the front. And exhale, release down. And we're going to keep legs in this deer shape and step hands in front of that left shin. You might adjust the angle in your left leg. We're going to come into forward bend. Inhale. And then exhale, start to lean forward. You could walk the hands a bit further forward. And at this point, you could decide to extend the back leg. So it's more of a pigeon pose than a deer pose. If that feels better around your hips, then feel free to extend the right leg. See how you feel. If you want to go a bit further down, you could lower down onto your elbows. So you're leaning further down and forward, maybe even leaning the head down or bringing chest closer to the floor. At any point, you can decide to adjust the legs. So remember, your right leg, the back leg, can be either straight or bent in that deer shape. You choose which one feels better in your hips now. And send again some slightly deeper breaths down towards the pelvic area. If there's a lot of tension, it might be nice to move a bit. Kind of rock a bit from side to side. So don't feel like you have to stay still in these poses. Try to soften your shoulders, soften your neck. Many people feel this around the front, like buttock, thigh. But you might feel this around your lower back as well, maybe at the front of that back leg. But just make sure there's no pain in the knees, no pains in the hip joints. Take another breath or two in and out. And then slowly with an in-breath, start to bring yourself up, coming all the way up. And if you have the back leg straight, now bend the right leg again and bring the knee a bit more in front of you. We're going to walk hands behind the pelvis, tuck the tailbone slightly under, and then lean back into a reclining deer pose. And it could be that staying on the hands is plenty enough. If you feel like going further down, you might lean onto your elbows here. I personally quite prefer just leaning, kind of twisting away from that leg that I'm stretching. So on this side, I'm now turning onto my left elbow and then I lean my upper body twisting more away from the right thigh. So that could be an option as well, especially if you feel that leaning straight back is too much for the lower back. Then twist away from that right leg, lean onto your left elbow, rotate your upper body towards the left side. And breathe. Let's take another breath or two in and out here. And after those couple of breaths, inhale, slowly bring yourself back up, back into that seat. And we're going to come into a stretch for the back side. So back side of the legs, back side of the spine. Extend your left leg in front of you, and you have options for the right leg. You can either keep it bent on the side so that the foot is still behind you, or other option would be to bring the right foot to the inner thigh on the left side. So you could close the right leg to the inside as well. So you choose. We're going for the back side of that left leg. We're going to walk hands a bit further forward, see how that feels. Pause there to breathe. You can let the left knee bend. That might make it a bit more manageable, especially if there's a lot of tension. And then see if you want to go further forward. You could exhale, round your spine, maybe walk hands even a bit further forward. Or you might even bring elbows to the floor. Now, often having that leg behind you is a bit more intense for the hamstrings because it's tilting the pelvis forward. Or if you have the leg on the inside, kind of in front of you, that right leg in front of you, it might be that it sends the stretch more to your back. So you don't necessarily feel this in the legs, you might feel this more in the back. Again, as long as there's no pain, you're doing fine. As long as you can breathe. Take a couple more breaths in and out. And then with an inhalation, slowly, you can bring your back up. And we have one more stretch, one more pose on this side. And we're going to come into shoelace or the fire log pose. You'll have options. First, bend that front leg, that left leg, and then bring your right leg on top of the left leg. I'll turn a bit more towards you so that you can either come into shoelace, stacking the knees, maybe not quite on top of each other, but the idea is bringing the knees on top of each other and then shins going out to the sides. If that feels too intense around the hips, you could try coming into fire log pose so that you bring your shins into a more parallel line in front of you, the right foot on top of the left knee, the right knee kind of on top of your left foot. Or the last option would be to cross the legs so your shins are still in a parallel line, but the right foot is in front of the left knee and your right knee is on top of the left foot. So 3 quite different options, but they all go around the hips area. I'm going to stick with this shoelace option. And once you have found your choice for today, then you could either stay upright or we could one more time lean forward. So stepping hands a bit further forward. So you're leaning the pelvis forward, creating stretch maybe around the right buttock, the right thigh, or you might feel it more on the left side of the body, maybe the left buttock, the left thigh. Stay mindful with your knees. Make sure there's no pain in the knees. There's no sharp sensations around the hip joints. But we would create the stretch in those bigger muscle areas, not in the joints. And you could lean further down and forward if the pose feels manageable, if it feels good to go lower down. It might be that your head comes all the way down to your knees. But when you have an edge where you feel you can stay and take a few breaths, then pause there to breathe. Use the exhalations to release. Take a couple more breaths in and out. And then after those couple of breaths, slowly bring yourself up, open the chest, you can roll the shoulders. And release your legs from that shoelace or fire log pose. Bring yourself onto all fours. And just a few breaths here. Rock the pelvis from side to side, or you could do a few cat-cow movements. But just allowing the hips to move, allowing the pelvis to move. See how that movement feels. We've done those stretches now to one side. We're still going to do them to the other side as well. And then tuck the toes under, lift your pelvis up into a downward dog. Breathe, downward dog pose. Here as well, you can pedal the feet if you want. Enjoy that opening along the whole back line of the pelvis, backs of the legs. And then from this downward dog, we're going to find our way into the deers on the other side. So now you could look forward and then bring your right shin, right knee closer to hands. Bend the left knee and sit down onto your right hip. So now the right shin is more in front, left leg next to you or even slightly behind you. And step your right hand somewhere, maybe diagonally behind you so you can lean on to the right hand. We start to open now more through the front of the left thigh. Lift it, deer. Inhale, lift the pelvis up. Reach your left arm away from that left knee. Open the chest. And then as you exhale, release the pelvis down. Release the left arm down. 2 more times. With inhalation, open the whole front side. The right shin pressing down. The right hand pressing down. You can open the chest. You can reach the left arm out. And exhale, release the pelvis down. Once more with your own in-breath, lifting the pelvis up. Maybe even looking up so you're opening the whole chest. And then once more, exhale, release down. And we're going to lean forward, that forward bending deer or pigeon. So you might adjust the angle in the front leg if needed. Step hands further forward so you start to lean forward. And remember here, option to straighten the left leg behind you or to keep the left leg bent. Slowly exhale, lean a bit further forward with the pelvis, with the back. And if you want, you might lower all the way down onto elbows. And now second side can be quite different, so you can choose a different option here. If you had legs straight on the first side, maybe on this side it needs to be bent. And again, a bit of kind of rocking from side to side, some gentle movement might feel nice. Together with some deeper breaths. Breathing in and out. Let's take another breath or two in this forward bend. You could sigh the breaths out. And then inhale, slowly bring your back up. Help with the hands, help with the arms. And we're going to keep the right shin in front, but now bend the left leg And maybe bring the left knee a bit further forward. We're going to go into that reclining deer. So lean onto your hands behind you. And first, just slightly tuck the tailbone under to send the stretch more to the front of that left leg. And then we're going to lean back. Maybe staying on the hands is plenty enough. Or if you want, you might go a bit further down onto elbows. Listen to your back. Again, you have the option to twist away from that left thigh. So just leaning onto the right elbow and kind of turning chest away from the left thigh. And that might be easier for the lower back, but still give you that stretch, that opening through the left thigh. Again, hip flexor line coming from your thigh all the way up to your spine. So breathe, keep breathing, couple more times in and out. And then slowly, slowly, with an in-breath, bring yourself up. And we're going to go into the stretch for the hamstring area, for the back of the leg. So now we're going to extend the right leg in front of us. And same options, you can either keep the left foot kind of behind you, so the left leg is bent out to the side, or you can bring the left foot to the inside of your right leg. Both options are good options. See which one would feel best for you today. And then we're going to walk hands forward. So we're kind of leaning forward over that right leg. And that might be plenty enough just to step the hands a bit further forward. You can still adjust the legs here. If you feel like you want to go further forward, think about lengthening the back forward and then exhale, bend a bit further down. And this rounding in the spine might give a nice opening for the back side of your spine as well. And breathe. And remember that straight leg could actually be bent. It doesn't need to be fully straight. If possible, let your neck soften, let your shoulders soften. A couple more breaths in and out. And then with your next couple of breaths, slowly bring your back up, open the chest. And then we have that one more pose on this side, the shoelace or the fire log pose. So now bend your right leg and bring your left leg on top of the right leg. And here again, you have option to cross the legs so that your knees are almost on top of each other, or you could have this kind of square shape. It's also called a square pose. So your shins are in front of you, left leg on top, right leg under the left leg. Or the last option was to square the legs so that your left leg is in front of the right leg. So left foot in front of the right knee, almost like a cross-legged pose. So again, choose one of those, and we're going to do this one more forward bend. So let your hips sink down. Inhale. And if you want to tilt further forward, just first step hands forward and pause there to breathe. See how you feel around the buttocks, the thighs. Are the knees safe? If you want, you can continue leaning further forward, even bending the elbows and leaning your back into a more rounded shape, maybe even head leaning down. All the time, keep breathing. With any change, keep breathing. And if you start to feel at any point you're getting too deep into the pose, you can always And take a step back, come a bit higher up. So don't force the pose. Again, what happened on the first side might not happen on the second side. So accept that the two sides can be very different. Or maybe the second side is easier. Maybe you feel that you can sink further down. Let's take a couple more breaths in and out. And then after those couple of breaths, slowly, you can roll the back up if you were leaning forward. Roll the shoulders a bit. Release the legs. And once more, come up onto hands and knees. You can move the hips a bit. Rock from side to side. Or do a couple of cat-cows to move the pelvis. Any movement that feels good after those a bit longer stretches, longer poses. And then tuck the toes under, lift into downward facing dog. And here, again, let the backs of the legs open, move your feet. You can here as well rock a bit from side to side with your hips. Breathe in and out. And then from downward dog, bring yourself down onto all fours and back into a seat. Now we're going to come lie down on the back, and this is where the block could be useful. So bring a block somewhere next to you when you come lying down. First, bend the knees, feet hip width apart, arms next to the sides. Inhale. And exhale, press the feet down, lift your pelvis off the floor, lift your back off the floor, bridge pose, open the front side. Exhale, release the back, release the pelvis down. Inhale, same again. Exhale, press the feet down, lift the front side up towards the ceiling. Inhale there. And exhale, lower down. One more round with an exhalation. Press the feet down and lift the pelvis up. And now we're going to stay here a little while. So if you want to make this a supported bridge pose, reach for your prop, whether it's your block or your pillow, your bolster. Bring it under the pelvis and then lean, kind of rest your pelvis on top of that support. If you don't want to stay in a supported bridge, you could just bring your pelvis down onto the mat and rest on the floor. Wherever you are, on a block or on a bolster or down on the floor, leave your left knee bent and extend your right leg down. So you still keep your right heel on the floor. Breathe here a few times in and out. Opening again along the front of the right hip, right thigh. And then as you exhale, bend that right knee and slowly extend the left leg. Again, still keeping the left heel down on the floor, on the mat. And breathe in and out. Keep a subtle support in the core. If you start to feel it's going too much into your back, then support more with your core. Take another breath in and out. And then slowly, again, bend your left knee, so both feet on the mat. Press the feet down, elevate the pelvis off the prop. And then pull the prop aside, lower your back, lower your pelvis down. And we do another few windshield wipers, swinging the legs from side to side. And then if you feel like hugging the knees in, you could bring the knees in towards the chest, towards the belly. Maybe rock a bit from side to side, especially if you felt the bridge in your back. It might be nice to round the back here. There might be other movements that you need to do. Maybe you want to continue with a few more windshield wipers. Let's take a few more breaths. So last movements for this practice. And then bring your feet down. Either keep the knees bent or extend the legs. And take a few breaths here to close the practice. Send a few breaths down towards the belly, down towards the hips, just to see how you feel now. Hopefully a bit more open, a bit more relaxed around the hips. And with your next few breaths from your back, roll onto one side and bring yourself up into a seat. Any easy seat for a few breaths. If it's part of your practice, you could bring palms together in front of the chest. And as always, at the end of the practice, thank yourself. I do hope you enjoyed the practice and found some release for your hips today. Thank you very much for joining in. Namaste. Thank you. Good. I hope you feel good now. I hope you enjoyed these stretches, this practice. And if you did, please give the video a thumbs up and also leave your comments below. Let me know how this practice went for you. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. There will be loads more free yoga classes and other yoga related videos coming up. Thank you. Have a great day and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.